Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
A stunning and sudden break between Tucker Carlson and the network that had embraced him at his most outrageous moments. Carlson abruptly pushed out at Fox News.
This was an action taken from the top levels of the network with the assent of its corporate parent. At minimum.
It's just down.
So ends one of the most controversial runs in cable television history. Carlson's show, one of the highest rated ever on cable, but often full of xenophobic, anti-immigrant, conspiratorial rhetoric, much of it propelled by the host himself.
The outcome of our presidential election was seized from the hands of voters, where, of course, it rightly belongs.
He will be part of a chapter of Fox News where the hosts in the Trump era were unbridled and at times uncontrolled, defining their own direction.
During the COVID pandemic, Carlson often railed on the idea of encouraging people to get vaccinated.
The idea that you would force people to take medicine they don't want or need, is there a precedent for that in our lifetime? I honestly think this is the greatest scandal of my lifetime by far.
Some of his more disquieting moments came in the immediate aftermath of the January 6th attack on the Capitol, when Carlson repeatedly defended insurrectionists, then laid out a baseless theory that it was all an FBI false flag operation.
FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol.
That was something that really shocked many of his colleagues at Fox News. It led to objections from Chris Wallace and Brett Baer, both of whom were perhaps the top figures on the news side.
In the end, some pieces of litigation could have been instrumental in pushing Carlson out. The Dominion lawsuit settled for more than $750 million, where texts from Carlson were revealed showing he believed differently from what he said on air, saying about Donald Trump, "I hate him passionately. There isn't really an upside to Trump." And lawsuits filed by former Fox News producer Abby Grossberg against the network, claiming Carlson's show team engaged in rampant sexism, including texts she said were from Carlson using the C word to refer to former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell. Fox has said Grossberg's lawsuits were, quote, riddled with false allegations.
This has been a tremendously, I think, painful, even traumatic experience for Fox News to see all their inner communications get splayed out in public. They are one of the most opaque institutions in American society for a very good reason, and that is they don't want people seeing in.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
Breonna Taylor's mother had one word to describe how she felt after learning former Louisville Metro police officer Miles Cosgrove had been rehired by another department.
Anger. To think that another department would even want this guy to be a part of any department for that matter just angers me.
The Carroll County Sheriff's Department recently hired Cosgrove, according to his attorney.
First and foremost, on behalf of Miles and myself, we don't want anything to take away or diminish the value of the tragedy that happened to Breonna Taylor and her family. We're not minimizing that at all, but he definitely has had a hard road to go in getting back to trying to figure out a way to support his family in the future.
Cosgrove was one of 3 LMPD officers who fired their weapons during a raid on Breonna Taylor's apartment the night of March 13, 2020. Cosgrove fired more than a dozen times, including the fatal bullet that killed Taylor. He has not faced any criminal charges related to the shooting, though the Louisville Metro Police Department fired him in January of 2021 for failing to use his body camera and violating the department's use of force rules.
I started shooting as soon as I saw the flash, almost simultaneously.
During a department hearing to appeal his firing, Cosgrove expressed remorse.
Do you regret that Breonna Taylor ended up being shot and killed? Of course. Of course I do. it's horrible.
The department's merit board upheld his dismissal. Despite that, the Carroll County Sheriff's Department decided to hire Cosgrove. His attorney notes 4 other officers in the raid face federal charges in connection with that raid, 3 accused of lying in order to obtain a search warrant.
There was a grand jury that met at the state of Kentucky that cleared him of any wrongdoing. A federal grand jury was convened and also determined that there were other people who warranted being charged criminally, but not Miles.
It's this good old boy system. So I'm not surprised at all.
Those seeking justice for Breonna Taylor say Cosgrove getting a badge back is a danger to the new community he is serving.
The people of Carroll County should be very afraid and should not let this hire stand.
You don't know what to trust anymore or who to trust. It's insane to me.
Like the Advocate channel on Facebook for the best way to get updates on stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
It's one of the most common cancers in U.S. women, and detecting breast cancer early is critical.
So mammograms have been shown to reduce death from breast cancer.
A study published in the medical journal JAMA Network Open finds that clinical trials may be needed to investigate whether Black women should start getting mammograms at younger ages. While this group is less likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer when compared to white women, Black women have a 40% higher breast cancer death rate.
Younger women, Black women are being diagnosed with breast cancer and dying from breast cancer.
The exact reason why is unclear, and breast cancer screening guidance can be confusing. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force, medical experts whose recommendations help guide doctors' decisions, recommend screening every 2 years, starting at age 50. They say the decision to screen at an earlier age should be based on the individual. However, many medical groups, including the American Cancer Society and Mayo Clinic, already emphasize women have the option to start getting mammograms every year, starting at age 40. Dr. Sandia Pruthi with Mayo Clinic says when to get a mammogram should be determined by assessing risk factors, and everyone should be aware.
Know your breast, know when to start screening, understand your risk factors, and then use that information when they're with their providers, because when you do make that effort, I think the uptake of mammograms is higher. Women are more likely to get one if they understand why they're getting it.
President Biden formally announced his re-election bid Tuesday, 4 years to the day of the launch of his last presidential campaign. The president drew on similar themes from 2020 when he said in a video today that this battle for the soul of the nation is not yet complete and Americans should give him a second term in office. The president also warned that Americans' freedoms are under threat by Republican extremism. In his video, he used imagery from the insurrection on January 6th, as well as protests by abortion rights activists after the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade last summer. Additionally, that video featured 2 men who could potentially serve as a matchup for the president in a general election, and that is former President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has yet to formally enter the 2024 race. Ultimately, Biden hopes that voters will believe that his record has helped the American people on issues like infrastructure and climate change. Now, advisors say that the president's schedule is not expected to change day to day now that this campaign is officially underway. They believe that one of the ways the president can make the case to the American people that he should be reelected is by doing his job of being president. A bit later today, he will address a union conference as he looks to highlight his ties to the labor community. And the campaign is also expected in the coming days to ramp up their push for fundraising, trying to appeal not just to those big dollar donors, but also grassroots supporters. But as the campaign is taking shape, there are a number of challenges facing President Biden in the next year and a half. His approval ratings are in the low 40%. He also is facing some headwinds when it comes to whether the American public even believes he should be running for a second term, with the majority saying that he should not. But ultimately, the president and his allies believe that he has a strong record to sell and that voters will side with him over the alternatives being presented by the Republican Party.